Hello.
Howdy.
How is everybody doing today?
I'm good, and I hope everyone's doing good. I don't know about you. It's hot over here in the East Coast, so I hope everyone's staying cool as best they can. And it was a crazy week in the UFL, Royce. A lot happened, and hopefully it gets better. I feel bad for some teams. I feel good for other teams. I'm trying to get more people in. We have Zom who's about to join us as well, and Mike is off sharing in social. There's Mike. But
No,
great
StreamYard
great
freaked
week
out
there.
when I tried share live, and it completely just kicked me off. So, welcome to the Alternative Football Panel. I don't know if you guys did the intro yet. I am your host, XFL Mike G. Over here this way is our producer, Rick 8-Bit. And he likes to wave to the people. Doing his dance down box. We'll get to him in a second. Royce is our human encyclopedia. And for those of you who don't know what an encyclopedia is, it's a physical version of Wikipedia that's more accurate. All right. And Tom is still getting going there. How was your weekend, guys?
Great.
You know, I think it was absolutely a crazy weekend from start to finish, and we had three games that were amazing, and the last one was a little bit of a letdown, but it was definitely a crazy weekend. I don't know about you guys, but my seat was worn out from sitting on the edge of it for three of the four games.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely a huge weekend. We're going to kick off the show with the biggest news to hit the UFL this season. Unfortunately, it's a sad subject. Jordan Tiamu was injured in last week's game. He tried to make a go of it. He was down for a series, tried to come back, and they said no. And we got official word yesterday that he is done for the season. Guys, I'm going to let you just go wild with this topic while I do some mass sharing. Anything about Jordan Tiamu's situation in DC, whether it's the trade, playoff implications, where you see Sanders going, what the running game needs to do? Take it away, guys.
I guess I'll start with this one. Apologies for those of you. I'm in the middle of literally building a PC while I'm in this, but I'll give my thoughts on it. I think especially after he got hurt, we saw that two of the quarterback trades were complete mistakes. We've already all agreed that the Renegades made a colossal mistake trading away Perez.
Mm-hmm.
You lost Teamu. You traded for Jason Bean. Mike DeLillo was your backup. So if you do the math of quarterback math, it means that you are now required to put in Jason Bean once Teamu gets hurt. You don't. So you just admitted that you traded away your QB2 for a QB3. And that QB2, important to note for those of you that don't remember last year or knew because you became an Orlando, Louisville, or Columbus fan, Mike DeLillo played a game and a half for the Defenders last year when Teamu was resting for the playoffs. So you got rid of a guy that already knows your playbook, has been the quarterback for you in the past, and the guy you traded for him, you decided to not play as the backup. I don't know what they're doing this week yet, but either way, at least for that game, it was a really weird decision. It's definitely rough for DC that you got rid of DeLillo and now you're dealing with this injury because, believe it or not, there's a very real shot DC could miss the playoffs now. Their last two games are against Orlando, and depending how St. Louis plays this week, Orlando might be playing starters throughout the rest of the year. It's very possible that they could go 2-0 against DC, and if that happens, DC might get booted by Louisville for that last playoff spot or for one of them.
And that's completely wild because 2 weeks ago they were at the top and nobody thought anything else. Like they were basically champions of the world at that time. But I think for me, and I think Rick probably feels the same way, right? That Bean is probably going to go. What do you think, Rick?
Honestly, I was watching Zom's live cast, and I said, "Oh, it's a Bean revenge game," and I'm shocked they didn't put him in. I mean, they knew that they needed this game. Bean knows the Kings. He played for him, so if there's anyone, granted, he might not know the defender system too well, but he was with the Kings long enough where he would know some of their routes and everything, where he could have definitely taken advantage of it. And now, honestly, they're sitting back now, and they're kind of hoping they get some help. To to me, that part was crazy. And the part where Zom, we were talking about before we got live was the Sal Canella going to St. Louis now. That's huge because with Sal Canella and Perez, they have such a history. You could just tell him, go 3 steps, cut to the right, and I'll pass you the ball. He doesn't need to know the routes. He just needs to know how Perez works. And this could be a piece that they might need. And I think that would definitely help Perez because it looked like last week he showed a little more rust in the first game. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, to piggyback off your point, like all 3 of those quarterback trades happened at the same time. We saw DTR immediately start and play decent and overall has been well. Perez has already started now, so like it's been long enough that Bean has been there. Unless he really can't learn a system that fast, he really should have been able to be the backup for sure. I definitely agree with you.
And maybe he's like Kyle Murray. Maybe he decided to go play video games instead. Who knows?
I do think he would give you at least a better chance at. I mean, Sanders didn't look great last week. Let's just be honest. He didn't look terrible. Like he wasn't Frost terrible, but he wasn't good either. I think they just I think if they want to have a chance to win, they just should play Bean, in my opinion.
100%, 100%. And while we're waiting for Mike, and since we're already talking about some of the games, the Friday night game, they were on the fort for the Dallas and Orlando. What did you guys think of it? I thought this was great. I thought it felt it had a really unique experience, and I think this will help the league expand more because being on a military base, they had a lot of military in the fan. And I like how they were trying to interview people. It really kind of made it a little more personal than, hey, this is just a football game. And even Beck posted, and he was like, hey, I don't post stuff for the Renegades, but this is a special experience. I think the Storm and Renegades were left really touched by this experience. And I feel like this is definitely going to help the league expand more.
It didn't get a lot of views, but I think. Sorry, is on what?
It was like a throwback to 2024 interviewing the Army people at halftime of those games, except it happened like 6 times every 2 minutes.
Yeah, but they did a little better job this time with the human interest aspect of it, I thought. And I think they did a good job at connecting, especially with Seth Green and his dad. That was pretty cool, I thought.
Yeah.
How he made the touchdown and his dad was there to like interview with him. That was just cool. I think things like that will go a long way in the long run. And I wish that it would have got more views. And, there wasn't a lot of people in the stands because it's a smaller venue. But I do think long term, all those people, as they disperse elsewhere and share the passion that they've felt that game, I think it'll go a long way.
I think what
Do
I
you
also
think
like.
they should do this every year?
Oh, absolutely.
I almost think they should choose a different military base each
Mhm.
year. That'd be
I
cool.
completely agree. I think that would be a great way, especially with communities. I mean, the more you build with the communities, these teams are going to do a lot better than in the past. Instead of just let's show up to a town, play a game, and leave. Stuff like this, community is a big part of a team expanding and developing more of a fan base. And I think by doing this, by doing the Pony Bowl or whatever they're gonna officially name the Thursday game before the Kentucky Derby, I feel like that will make this league unique. I mean, think of the NFL. You have Thanksgiving. You have now they're doing Thanksgiving Eve, a Black Friday game. They're doing stuff to make it where it's theirs. I think this is the way that UFL could put a little taste of an experience with them. Hey, we're the only place that does a game on a field for a military base. Or hey, we're incorporating now with the Kentucky Derby. So I think that's a great way for them to expand into the communities.
I totally agree. Kind of cool. The
So
game itself was interesting, and boy, DC or Dallas just looked pretty bad again. But it was kind of fun watching the Storm. I think they really kind of showed that I guess they didn't allow Dallas in really, and that was good to see that. Okay, yes, they deserve to be in the playoffs. If they would have lost this game, I would have really questioned the Storm. So in a way, it was kind of refreshing to see them actually pull together a couple wins in a row, go into those last 2 games to show that they earned it.
Yeah, and going off your point, I mean, we spoke last week with both teams going on a losing tier. You had to have one team kind of rebound, and I just think it was crazy. The Plummer run. Who would have thought your quarterback, who's not really known as a runner, takes off for what 70, 80 yards? I mean,
71, yeah.
It's just absolutely crazy, and I feel bad for the people in that area because they were more Renegades fans and everything. But I feel like the Storm, this was their putting everyone on notice kind of game. They showed off that in an adversity they could respond, and the way they played, and their defense had a couple big stops too. I feel like this might be the way for them to really start going. And like you brought up, their next 2 games are now against the Defenders. So Orlando kind of was lucky where the way the schedule was, and they got lucky on a couple games. This was kind of the one where you actually felt better about them, because considering a week before they only beat the Gamblers by 1, and that was almost because of a missed field goal. So this definitely felt like they had control of most of the game.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for letting me jump away to pay some bills and share on the socials. She sells seashore. So yeah, that was a great game. Remember last week I was hemming and hawing about that pick, whether it was Dallas or Orlando, because I was like, maybe maybe Dallas is going to bounce back. For the first quarter of that game, I was like, yeah, maybe I should have picked Dallas. But they led 10-0 going into the second quarter, and then Orlando proceeded to just open up the taps and go on a 31-7 run. As you guys were talking about that long run by Plummer, who expected him to break off that long of a run? I expected a run, 10, 15 yards here, but 71 yards, longest run of the UFL season. Wow. Incredible game. Any final thoughts on that, guys, before we wrap it up?
I definitely feel like the Storm, if they put things in place now, especially the way DC kind of feels, this might be the chance for the Storm to really start running away with everything.
I mean, with the injury to Te'amu, it pretty much guarantees Plummer the MVP, which I don't think anyone said that before the season started, but at this point, it's pretty much a guarantee that he wins it. I would imagine if there are odds, it's probably like minus 10,000 or something like that. And then also, I think it's pretty crazy to think that we did this Army collab, despite, what happened 2 years ago with The Rock and how the original Army deal completely fell apart. Because for those of you that are new to the UFL, we actually had a deal with the Army, and you wore patches of the U.S. Army, and then good old Rock decided to ego boost and cost us that sponsorship. But crazy to think how times have changed so quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and on that note, and I heard you guys talking about it, was some of the sideline coverage. Excellent sideline coverage. Talking to the father of the UFL player that scored. But I think more than anything, what's going to bring people to the Army, especially that particular fort, is the cavalry. They said horsies, and people went horsies. I want to join that. So the story that they had about the person who's in charge of that is because all you know with cavalry originally started with the horse. So I think they did more saying that word horse to bring people into the Army than The Rock did all of last year. Again, it was great sideline reporting. They, a huge moment. Your dad's in the stands, gets to come down onto the sidelines and talk to you live while you scored a touchdown. Incredible moment.
Absolutely.
All right, so I'm sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. Let's move on to DC and Louisville. This was the game that kind of maybe is the watershed moment of the UFL for this season with the loss of Jordan Tiamu. Rick, do you want to let us know about the Kings and how they pulled this off?
I will first start by saying that was probably the craziest start to a football game I've seen in a long time. How you had the defenders strike pretty quickly after getting the ball, and then you had the return right, back to back. I think they said it was like 2 touchdowns in 48 seconds or something. So you didn't even have a full minute of the game, and it was already tied up. And I thought that was incredible. And that kind of had me more into this game than I think others. And also the way I liked how the Kings played, but I think this all came down to once Tiamu went down, they were kind of struggling with what to do. And he even tried coming back for a snap and just couldn't even walk. So I think they slowly figured it out, but it was short plug and play passes and stuff like that. And I hate to say this, but this isn't the time of year to figure out how your offense is going to work when you're in line for the playoffs. So now they're kind of back to the drawing board, and you have to play 2 games back to back against now the team who's almost everyone's going to say is the number 1 team in the league now with the Storm. So unfortunately, this is terrible timing. And I question them not putting in Bean, to be honest with you. I said before that I feel like Bean knew enough of the Kings, or if you put him in, even if he doesn't know how the system works for DC, he can definitely move around and read stuff from practices before against the Kings that he can make something work. So I'm really shocked on that. And honestly, I feel like the Kings, the way they're rolling, I think they're going to shock people and sneak in and make some noise.
But I will say, just to play devil's advocate, because I think DC loves to play the underdog, and I know that Shannon Harris is going to get his guys riled up for those 2 games against Orlando. But can you imagine being an Orlando fan thinking, crap, we have to play DC the last 2 games of the season. Now you're like, we get to play DC the last 2 games of the season. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. To your point, that game started out with kickoff, 1 play from scrimmage, a long play from scrimmage after a long kickoff, and then touchdown. It was like touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. It was a great pace to start out with, but ultimately it's going to cost DC their quarterback. I think when Sanders initially got into the game, there was a bit of a frenetic pace, a bit of a what do we do now? What do we do now? Let's just start throwing stuff. It didn't seem like the coordinating staff was taking control of the situation, calming him down, calming the plays down. It seemed like they were trying to catch up real quick, and it was almost too much too soon, and they kind of abandoned the game. I think that going into next week, now that he's kind of settled down, I think he'll be better, but we'll see if that's able to translate into a victory for DC. Anybody else want to break in on this one?
I just love the way Louisville's playing right now. It's cool to see that defense come together. And I was saying how much I love that defense from their Showboats crew. And I was looking at, I think there's 8 guys right now on that defense that came over from the Showboats. And it's just, for me, it's really cool to see them gelling. And their offense is actually hitting too, which is, I mean, if you looked at them early, they were so inconsistent on offense. But Redmond has really turned that team around. And I'm kind of impressed, I will say, with his coaching, with that coaching staff. I think they've built something kind of steadily increasing. If you're going to look at most improved team, I would say the Kings have to have it.
For sure. And I do like the fact that they're sticking with Rodgers. I like Rodgers. I understand why the trade was made away from Bean. I think Bean has the world of potential, but maybe not the demeanor, maybe not the experience to kind of command a team and be a field general. He's got all the world of potential, maybe more so than Rodgers did leading up to the trade. But I just feel like maybe Bean should wait and let Sanders play it, see what he can do a little bit, because he's been in that system long enough. And you've got Bean in the wings ready to go. But I think you give Sanders 1 week and then you move on.
I will say this too. You mentioned Rodgers, and last week we mentioned about being leaders and a DTR and everything. And Rodgers has that. He has just that aura about him where he's a leader, which definitely has helped. And I feel like he's developed more since taking over the starting reins, and I think that's also helped the team as well, because you have a leader. And I'm, as you can see, I'm a Ravens fan. I love Sharper. I feel like defensive coordinator. He's been fantastic. He's been the reason the Kings have been in most games. And now with their offense clicking with their defense, I think this team is absolutely scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course the way that game finished was last thoughts. The way the game finished, with the 4th and 12 failing off with 22 seconds left on your backup quarterback. Um, Guys, what are your thoughts on that before we move on? The fact that they still had the chance to win maybe shows that DC is not out of it quite yet. They still have the championship mentality. They still have the title until someone takes it away. Final thoughts before we move on, guys.
They're a great team. I mean, they've got amazing players, but I think they're hitting a really tough team in the last 2 games of the season. So if they can take one of those two, they'll probably make the playoffs. But it's going to be tough for them to do without a really solid QB. So, what are you going to say, Rick?
I'll say this. I feel like once they put Sanders in, it kind of was like a speed bump, and it's like you're running, you hit something, now you have to get going. I think he finally started getting things flowing, but it was way too late in that 4th quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, maybe that bodes well for them going into the rest of this season because they still do have championship aspirations. All right, but moving on to Houston at St. Louis. And again, this was one of the other picks that I hemmed and hawed in. In my mind, I saw the Houston Gamblers wearing those icy whites in the Battle Dome and taking it to Luis Perez. And that's actually what they did. But I didn't pick the Gamblers, and I should have. And I've got some other shocking news on that. But, guys, let's go with Royce. Battlehawks Gamblers in the Dome, Luis Perez's home debut. What are your takeaways from this game?
It was, for me, pulling for the Battlehawks, it was frustrating because they started off so flat and the Gamblers just jumped out of the gate. I mean, they were really kind of dominant at the start of the game, and Deckers was looking solid, really impressive actually, which I was kind of surprised by because I don't know. I mean, I picked him as player of the game the previous week, so I almost had to pick him again. But it was really that defense totally shut down Perez for the most part of the game. They made a nice run at the end of the game, and then they came 1 second away from tying it at the end. But overall, they just were too late, like you were talking about the previous game, too little, too late. And so they didn't just have enough time on the clock the Battlehawks didn't have enough time to come back.
Yeah, and I didn't get to watch that game completely. I missed the beginning and I missed the end. Unfortunately, with the weather delay, they didn't move the game back. They ran it on ESPN News, and I can only focus on one game at a time now. So I just chose to stick with the game, that even though it was out of hand, stick with that game. So I missed most of the Gamblers St. Louis game. But I will say that yes, Deckers had a great game, and he's proving that he should be the starting quarterback here on out, regardless of who they bring in, how well Plumlee plays. I think Deckers has earned that chance to be a starter. I think it was like one of the drives, it was like 8 of 8 or 8 of 9 for a touchdown. Houston, when they are able to move the ball and be consistent, and I think that lies more with the play callers. I know the Houston fans are not happy with the OC. They're not happy with Sumlin. And watching some of his interviews in game and some of them post game, I was kind of like, I'm not too confident on Sumlin. I'm ready to move on from Sumlin. I'm ready for the entire UFL to do something with Houston before they lose that entire franchise. But any thoughts on the game before we move on, guys?
Yeah, I'll throw this out there. I think St. Louis actually beat themselves in this game. With the pick six, definitely hurt them. And I feel like there's a couple of miscues that Houston for once took advantage of. And I feel like that definitely helped them. Perez, to me, looked a little bit off compared to the first game. So I'm curious now how it goes. And like I said, Stout Canella, I think, is going to be perfect. I feel if they had Stout Canella this past game, it's tied and they go to that shootout for overtime.
Well, they did have, I mean, Tyler Neville had some great plays, but he got injured, so that's why they have Canella now. But I think you're trading a almost all pro level tight end for a even better tight end, which is amazing for them. So I think one thing, I'm a big Perez guy, but I think he could have clocked that thing and gave him another second had he got up and taken that snap at the end. And I think honestly, that's on him that they didn't get that last chance to punch it in. Does anybody else feel that way, or am I just too harsh on him?
I mean, it's not the first time we saw Luis Perez make a poor choice on a spike. Don't forget last year against DC, the fake
Right.
spike interception.
That's right. Yeah.
But honestly, I will say the mistake was doing the spike. I don't know why they were trying a spike in that situation. Like when that play ended, there was about 8 seconds left.
Yeah.
Even if you do a spike, you lose at least 1 second doing the play. You didn't have time for a second. So I don't know if that's on Perez. I don't know if that's on Ricky. But somebody messed up because they never should have gone for a spike in the first place. They should have done a quick play and do a quick throw to Hakeem or something. But I mean, that whole end sequence, it's also fair to bring up that Ricky's failed challenge earlier in the game kind of cost him in the end. There was that pretty clear defensive pass interference that they could have challenged had they had it. And I know I talked about this in my power rankings video, but Ricky's been dodging a lot of bad heat because the team is winning. But you could argue to some degree they're winning in spite of him because he's made really Sumlin has made the most coaching errors, but there's an argument that Ricky has made the second most true coaching errors. What was it last week with the end of the halftime where he called the timeout even though the clock stopped on first down? Yeah. So he ended up costing his own team 3 points, and they tried to blame the referee for dropping the ball when it was on Ricky. So, it's the one thing I worry about is, we always talked about Anthony Beck can't win a playoff game. He can't win the big games. And now you have a coach that's making the kind of mistakes that are going to cost you a big game. I'm just saying, man, could you imagine if the Battlehawks once again get bounced in the first round? Oh, my God.
Oh, poor.
Picking back off of what Dom said, kind of makes me think, too, there's no definite now with this league. It's honestly up for grabs, which is going to make this go all the way down to the middle of June exciting. Because you have every team has that one flaw, and it's not like it's minor; it's major enough where it can be picked apart, and then you can have a field day with it. So you like how Perez is doing with Battlehawks. Orlando kind of was regrouped enough after only winning by 1. You have Perez now, you have Tiamo down in with the defenders. You have maybe the rise of the Stallions or the Kings. I mean, who knows? But this is exciting. I could say I've never seen a league or season out of the UFL or XFL where it was this exciting, where you're going into end of May thinking, wow, this is really up for grabs.
Yeah, because even the USFL in 2023, which is still the most parity we saw technically, because Royce, you might know this better than me, were the Showboats officially eliminated week 9, or was it week 10 they got eliminated?
9. I think they were out in 9. Yeah, but close.
I mean
they
even
made
then,
it really
that's still
far. Yeah.
Yeah, that's still 17s. But even then, we all kind of knew it was going to be basically like what people are saying is this NBA series between the Spurs and Thunder. We knew it was whoever won the Breakers Stallions series. We knew if somehow Houston made it, they weren't going to beat Birmingham. We knew it was basically New Orleans versus Birmingham. Whereas this year, I agree. I mean, I think we can all agree Columbus is pretty much out. And even Dallas, but even then, that's still 6 teams that really could do it because Houston somehow almost controls their own destiny right now, which is insane to think about.
Because they play St. Louis again this week.
And they finish with Birmingham.
Yeah.
They literally have the perfect end for them because they could get full tiebreaker over both those teams to sneak in. There is a world where DC and St. Louis still miss the playoffs, believe it or not.
That's so crazy. Yeah. But I think if you're a St. Louis fan,
video, I'm waiting for the Zom video of the playoff breakdown and playoff implications. Rapoli wants to be a disruptor league, so I'm going with the chaos theory of my own with the picks, and I'll get into that later. But it's everybody's still technically alive, and how many tiebreakers are they going to have to go to before they have to do a coin flip? It's exciting. It gives everybody, especially the newer markets, a chance to stay in it and stay involved and stay engaged. It's very exciting. It's very compelling. Gotta love the parity. But like what Rick was saying is these teams need to be able to overcome that one big flaw. And if those teams can do it, they have the potential to win that particular game. All right. Unless anybody else wants to put a cherry on top of that, we'll move on to Columbus at Birmingham, guys.
Cool.
All right. What are your impressions on this game? I'm going to go with Royce. This was a kind of an odd game, and I had to kind of. I love all football, even the ugly games, but this was a defensive and special teams heavy game. Royce, what are your thoughts on Birmingham and Columbus?
You know, you look at that and you think, boy, Birmingham thumped them, and they kind of did, but they only scored 14 points. So Columbus actually showed some good defense. It's crazy to me that Columbus's really player of the year is their punter, and that's not a good thing. So they could not get anything going. So credit to Birmingham's defense. They showed up, I think, better than they had all season, and they just made Columbus look anemic. So it was kind of for me, it was a rough watch because neither game or neither team looked stellar. I mean, they had some good plays, but I would say neither offense could really get it going. So I like a big offensive showdown, and that was not that game.
I believe the leading receiver for Columbus, somebody might have to double check this, but it was the guard who was a tight end eligible who got that long reception. I believe he might have had more receiving yards than the entire team put together.
That's
I mean, it was a game. It was ugly. Special teams, though, showed out. There was a lot of close block attempts. A lot of people who are learning how to block the ball. You don't jump at the ball, you jump where it's going to be. A lot of big returns. One of the biggest things, though, that I noticed that continues to haunt Columbus is their ball security. Now, they may not have some of the turnovers that flipped the game, but I was just the Zakondre White issue with him holding on to the ball. He was down on one particular play. And then, of course, towards the end of the game, there was a potential for them to get a 4th and short, but the guard missed the defensive end, allowed him to eat that. What do you guys think about the ball security and overall the emotional preparedness of the Columbus Aviators? And it's kind of funny for a team called the Aviators, we're worried about their ground game. Guys, who wants to take that away? Nobody. Okay. So what I was talking about was White. I can't talk today. Is very emotional, very high revving, high motor. He was demanding the ball, and he was rightfully so. He was right. The play was right there. He's like, I'll get the first down. I'll get a yard or two, and we'll continue to drive. But a missed assignment on the line cost them potentially even the game, because at that point they were still kind of in it. I don't know what is going on exactly with Columbus. We were talking about Chris Redmond earlier and Ricky Prohl, but I'm still going to have Ted Ginn Jr. right there with maybe a little bit lower than Redmond on the totem pole as far as knowing the game. The UFL, it's a different game. You have to have a different mindset. You got to keep in mind with these super challenges, what can be challenged. I am mildly irritated with coaches attempting to overturn a call with the super challenge. It's like if they've already ruled on it, especially the ones that have been ruled on, if they've already ruled on it and they told you we looked at it, it is clearly a penalty. Why are you going to throw a challenge? Guys, what are your thoughts on weird super challenges, and should we change them any?
I mean, you bring up the super challenge. What was it? The Shannon Harris one where they apparently changed the rule about pre-snap penalties, but they never announced it. I mentioned this in the live stream because I did the live play-by-play for it. Was it as egregious as the Renegades one? Technically, no, because that one essentially cost them the game. This one didn't. But the principle is what matters. No matter what, someone is to blame, and it's really not Shannon. It's either the league is to blame for never announcing the change, or it's on Blandino or the refs for not knowing the rule. Because we have seen challenges on pre-snap penalties multiple times before. A false start is the definition of a pre-snap penalty, and that is what the Stallions challenged on their own team to win that game against Dallas. But all of a sudden it's not. And the worst part was that officiating crew sucked. I'm just going to say it. not even just against DC, they genuinely sucked. Like, if you go back to my stream, I said at that minute, that should be a false start. I didn't even realize that it was that they weren't set. I said it was a false start. That was a clear as day penalty that they never called. Like, that was bad. Like, the whole point of the UFL is we're not a rigged league, as the joke is for the NFL. But with a play like that, you honest to God think, is this league rigged? Because that was such an obvious penalty. And the fact it wasn't called, and then the refs doubled down saying you can't challenge that. I mean, if I'm wrong, let me know. But they never announced that they changed that rule, let alone the super challenge to 2. If I remember correctly, they never announced that they reverted that change. They just did it and then silently did it, which is egregious. Like, could you imagine if the NFL banned you from challenging fumbles and they never made it public, and a coach tried to do it and they said you can't do that? Could you imagine the backlash? The UFL has now done that twice this year with Super Challenge. Once with the not letting you get a second one, and twice with the pre-snap. Egregious by the officiating staff and the UFL. Oh, and also last thing, Ricky Prohl is the single worst Super Challenger in the league.
Yeah, I think Mike said it right. Like, once they've already made that decision and told you they've made the decision, they're not going to change it. Don't challenge it. Don't waste your Super Challenge. It's crazy. So
I got one point before we move on. I know the standings, the stands look pretty empty, and I saw a lot of people. I saw the low score. I actually went back. I believe it was close to 90 degrees in Birmingham on Sunday, so that kind of tells me why it didn't have a lot of fans show up. And 14-3. I mean, these poor guys. 90 degrees out of the blue. It kind of is a little tough to do anything at. I was at an event over the weekend, and I was sweating, and I was doing nothing. So I could only feel bad how these guys were doing 4 quarters on the field, and it was probably closer to maybe 100.
Well, they had the gun, and they scanned the actual grass, and it was 142. That's how hot the field itself was.
Yeah, and if you don't have much experience with these artificial turf, it's basically ground up tires in synthetic fibers, and it's black and it's hot, and I've seen it melt shoes here in Texas. Like, I've seen coaches on a sideline who weren't moving very much have their shoes actually start to melt into the field. But going back to the super challenges, to kind of add on to what Zom was saying, the whole point of the challenge is to challenge things that were missed, whether they're pre-snap or they're during live action. I think that one was super egregious because you had multiple players who were kind of like having a casual conversation when we're walking up to the line. Hey, what are you going to do after the game? Oh, they snapped the ball. How do you miss that? That was maybe my first thought was like maybe the sideline official zoned out and he wasn't paying attention. I don't know, but they were still clearly walking up to the line. All right, last gripe about that. Week 8 recap. Is this going to be our picks from last week, Rick?
Yeah. So you want to tell us what we're doing? You ordered it great, so I don't want to steal your thunder.
What are we talking about? No, I'm lost.
So basically, Mike messaged me and said, "Hey, let's show everyone how we did with the rankings and how we did with our picks to see." Because I think we're all in the same boat last week, and how we thought going into week 8, how everything was going to be and how everything looked rankings wise. And it's kind of completely nuts to see it. So Mike wanted us to bring it before we talk going into our next week's predictions for week 9.
Yeah, it's kind of just like a look back at since we just reviewed the games, where those teams were last week before we move on to where they are this week. So, and we're looking at our picks of I hate the dreaded Red X line. With the Orlando-Dallas game, Zom and I were the only ones that picked that one, so we'll take that one. None of us picked the Kings over DC. None of us picked the Gamblers over St. Louis. So back-to-back double games where no one got that one right. Myself, I didn't pick Birmingham. I'm going to pick them next week. But Birmingham cost everybody except for DeMarcus and Zom. So that's going to bring our leader total to 21-11 for DeMarcus. He's got me by 1 game. Right behind me is Royce, and behind him is Rick. Overall, the AFP network, the Alternative Football Panel, is 19-13 for the season. Guys, how do you feel about last week's picks? Anything you wish
I'm
you could do
shocked.
different?
You gained 2 on DeMarcus, so props to you. That's incredible.
Yeah. It just shows what a
You know,
tough league it is to pick.
yeah, and this is where it gets good. This is where you kind of have to get out of the norms. And like Rick was saying, if those teams can overcome that one big hurdle, you never know. You never know, guys. So it'll be interesting watching these picks for the last 2 weeks of the season and the playoff implications that they're going to have. If we're ready to move on.
Yeah. So, Royce, you ready for your stamp of approval?
I'm ready. All right. So Orlando game, I picked Jack Plummer. He was pretty great. He had 238 yards passing, 24 of 36, which is a nice clip. 2 rushing TDs, one just at the 1 yard line, and then 1 71-yarder. So he ended up as the leading rusher on their team. He had the longest run. That was the longest run by anybody this season. So he got my player of the game there. And then Tanner Brown he was 4-4 on field goals, including a 60-yarder. So now there's 2 guys in the league that have hit it from 60 this year. He tied the season record for field goals made in a season, and he still has 2 games left. So he's pretty much going to beat that record. So he's like another Jake Bates out there and just kicking it like crazy. So I think I picked McCrane at season's half, like after 5 games. I picked McCrane, but I think Tanner Brown definitely has surpassed him as far as the best kicker in the league. So Major Burns for the Gamblers was great on defense. He was my player of the game there. 4 tackles, 3 pass breakups, which is pretty phenomenal for one game, and 1 interception. So he really kind of started the game, that defense, by shutting down the Battlehawks and made them try to come back. And then as they were trying to air it out, then he was doing some damage. So he got my player of the game there. And then Stephen Gilmore, speaking of shutting people down, Stephen Gilmore had 3 tackles, an interception, a pass breakup, and a blocked kick that he picked up and returned for a touchdown. So he had a great game for the Stallions. He got my player of the game. So I made custom cards for all of those guys.
Yeah, and I love that you picked that touchdown for Plummer. That was such a heads-up smart play. As soon as you break the plane, touchdown. Doesn't matter if they knock it out of your hands or not. And I wish more players would do that. And I wish more refs would call it. As soon as it breaks the plane, touchdown.
Yeah.
With Tanner Brown, Rick also made another Tecmo highlight for that. If you're not familiar with Rick 8-Bit, he creates Tecmo highlights with UFL plays, and I really love them. And I need to post that one, that Tanner Brown pick. Major Burns with an all UFL name. Guy's playing lights out for Houston, and he's got a great name. The last pick, if we can go back, we don't have to go back in the slide. I'm just going to talk about it. Gilmore had a tremendous game with the pass breakup, the interception. Did he get touchdown or on the block, right? Is that the one?
Yeah.
Or was that the pick six? Yeah.
No, he got
incredible
a touchdown
game.
on the block. Yeah.
There you go. Incredible game. I fully expect to see him playing in the fall on Sundays, guys. Tremendous. And thanks, Royce, for your picks, your stamp of approval. I love seeing those every week. Guys, if we're ready to move on, what is Zom doing there?
I think he's still trying to build his computer.
Yeah.
You guys want to see some progress?
Yeah. Oh, nice.
I got the RAM. I got the CPU put in there. I got my cases over here.
Is this an all new build or a rebuild?
It should, in theory, be a full rebuild except for the RAM, which is the only thing I'm taking from my old PC. I might have to take my old CPU, but that is a to be determined if the other one I have works. And I'm either going to be using a hold up, I'm getting it. Oh crap, I forgot I got it. Well, I'm either going to be using a pretty decent Sapphire Pulse GPU, or I'm going to be using like a super weak, like Radeon 552 gigabyte VRAM card.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I really got to hope that other GPU works, or else I'm rocking a ancient GPU.
So he's on this podcast. He's working on his computer, and he's probably making other content on some other device at the same time. Zom's got a
Yeah,
lot of
I
things
literally
going on.
I got it out. The Radeon 550. This
Nice.
thing is so small.
Wow.
So I gotta hope the other one works, but we'll see. But yeah, speaking of that, literally, I know what you mean. The amount of stuff is insane that I'm recording at this point. I just posted the week review video, recorded 2nd and 6, posted already 3 videos now this week. My goodness.
And you joined
with the
Diego's too, right?
Yeah, last week or 2 weeks ago, yeah, I did that too.
Oh yeah, 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah, I did spring it into football a couple weeks ago. I think that's the 3rd straight year I've been on at least one episode.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to Friday Night Football, Game 1 of Week 9 of the UFL season. Defenders at Storm. Of course, with the news of Jordan Tiamu going down, a lot of people are jumping on the Storm's bandwagon, but the Storm's already clinched. Maybe they relax and maybe they kind of shuffle in some of their twos. Guys, what are your thoughts on this game before we break it down too deep?
I'll start. The Storm, if they win here, they're almost going to have a 2-game lead on everyone else before they even get to Saturday. So I think that gives them enough momentum where they play their starters. I think of maybe I'm not a coach, and I only did track, to be fair. So for football, though, I feel though if they're getting beaten pretty soundly, though, I feel come third quarter, fourth quarter, I feel like they bench everyone and let it ride. Especially because next week it's rinse, lather, repeat. So if they have a chance where they're going to need the game more, let's rest our starters. But DC's is going to have their starters in the full game. So I think that might be the difference maker.
I agree. I think they have incentive to start everybody and get the win, but if they start losing by more than 2 touchdowns, they'll probably go to their bench.
I don't know. With Beck, he's been real conservative, but it seemed like he might have heard us calling him the Orlando Tropical Depressions last week, and they came out on fire. So we don't know whether he's just opening up the taps or whether he's going to continue to be conservative. And sometimes when you're too conservative, it's hard to get going again. Like when your team has a long break and they call it the rust, get back into it. So it's kind of hard to stop and start and back and forth. So it'll be interesting to see where this game goes. Does anybody want to add any more on top of that?
Yeah, if you think of this way too, the Storm played last Friday. Now they have another Friday game. DC played Saturday afternoon. So by the time they got back to HQ and everything, their time to recap and regroup is a lot less than Orlando's. So Orlando also has that advantage where not only is the game at home, but they're a little more rested than DC, which is I think might also play into this.
Dude, I mean, I think a big part is, at least from what I understand, I don't think any team is dealing with the last year thing of they can't host a playoff game, right? So
Right.
In theory, we should still be able to see Orlando host a playoff game. I believe there is a scenario where they clinch that 1 seed this week. I think if they win and St. Louis loses, they do clinch the 1 seed. So, I mean, if you're DC, you're probably hoping that ends up happening, that, Orlando, if they beat you, St. Louis loses, so that way they rest their starters in week 10. But, yeah, it ain't looking good for DC right now.
If I could throw this out, I believe with the World Cup coming, I feel like all of soccer is going to be on a temporary break come June. So, like you said, there really shouldn't be any issues. Granted, they all share stadiums, but I want to say June 1st to middle of July or when the World Cup is over, it's a massive break for all soccer clubs. No matter if it's MLS or Premier League, everyone has a big gap because of the World Cup. So this is the year. There shouldn't be any interruptions. You're 100% right.
Yeah, and with going back to the defenders real quick, I think that Sanders will be much better this week. with some preparation, with a game plan that's more suited to him. He could potentially pull this one off, but I'm going to go ahead and go with the Storm on this one. Anyone want to add anything to that before we move on to the next game?
I changed my pick after the Storm, or after Teamu announced that or after they announced Teamu was out for the season. I had originally picked the Defenders and had to flip it because I don't think that DC is going to win. I don't trust Sanders, so I don't know. Hopefully he does okay, but I'd almost say Bean's going to be in. If Sanders starts and doesn't perform well, Bean's going to be in.
I want to throw this out
Yeah,
to help with Dom's point. With the soccer, the Orlando City don't host the game until July 22nd, so that's not a problem. The only problem will be the women's team, the Orlando Pride, has a home game July 3rd.
Oh, but July's too late. It's over.
Yeah, I was going to say July's the end of the season, so Orlando should be perfectly fine with having home games.
Cool.
Right, and that would be such a disappointment. I know it was with the Brahmas having a home game away, and I would hate for that to happen to Orlando or any team in the UFL because that's a miserable experience having your home games taken away. Yeah. You guys ready to move on to the next one? Stallions at Aviators. This has a potential bounce back game. It also has a potential to be the Stallions just continue to roll with DTR. Guys, what are your thoughts on this game?
I think Stallions take it pretty easily. Columbus just hasn't been really able to put up a lot of points. And the way Stallions defense looked last week, I think they can shut them down. Especially, I mean, Aviators only had 3 points last week. I think at that pace, they just don't have – and they're really – I guess maybe people have figured out that run game because the run game is solid. And for the first 7 weeks of the season – if they went to the run game, they had a chance to be in the game. But I think maybe now people are keying in on that, and their passing game is not where it needs to be. So I think that Stallions take this one.
The only reason I'm thinking about taking Columbus is just because they have so much experience in this situation since they've had like 2 of these back-to-back sort of games already. Yeah. But it's it's like you said, because the entire season, the only consistent unit was the Columbus Aviators ground game. The entire rest of the season, they've averaged like 4.3 yards a carry and higher. And they got crushed against Birmingham. So, like, the reason I want to pick Birmingham is because I agree. I think they may have figured out that run defense or run offense. So it's like one of those where it's sort of like an immovable object versus the unstoppable force. It's the team that has won both of their back-to-back games and really in somewhat convincing fashions, versus the team that was the first to stop their ground game. So I think it's going to be very interesting. I still don't even know who I'd pick, but I'm probably leaning towards Columbus. I just feel like I just didn't see a sweep coming, so I guess that's why I'm leaning that way. But even then, man, I don't like that pick.
Yeah. Certainly wouldn't put any money on it.
Here's the stat for everyone. Before for the Stallions, they were 1-3 before DTR. 3-1 since he started as their quarterback.
Yeah,
that's not bad.
Yeah, he's impressive.
Yeah, I just think Birmingham's overconfident, and I think Columbus is going to figure some things out as far as their ground game. And it's something we've talked about. When it's an obvious running situation, the defense is going to stack the line. So you'll need to add some play action. If you mix that with the reluctance to go deep, whether it's Todd Haley or McClendon just choosing not to go deep, when you mix a play action, you can hit something deep, as opposed to where they know you're going to go deep because you're down. Defensives have kind of figured out the passing game for Columbus, where they're allowing things short and they're covering that and taking it away. They're going to have to do something creative, either get the ground game going or mix in some of that play action. I love play action when it's executed well, but that is dictated by the ground game, not just the potential of a ground game, but getting Toa and Levitt and White going again. If they can get those guys going, keep that ball away from DTR and rely on that defense and that special teams again, I think Columbus has a chance, guys.
I will throw this out too. Out of these two teams, I think the Stallions have more to play for than Columbus. So this would give them. Columbus needs to win out and needs help. Stallions know, hey, we control their destiny. And we talked last week, DTR is a leader. And when you preach that, guys, we control our own destiny and what we have to do, you get enough people to buy in on it. And if you look, 3-1 as a starter compared to 1-3 before they had him in place, definitely shows they have the right guy. AJ might not be the best coach, but the best quarterback for that team's DTR, and they're playing for something more. And the fact that considering, and look at the game ahead of it. You have DC against Orlando on Friday. Depending on that game, that gives the Stallions even extra motivation if DC loses.
Are you calling AJ and Siski DTR merchants?
No comment.
Yeah, and we've been saying that all season. It's DTR is saving AJ's job. It's plain and simple. It's the best and worst thing that could have happened to Birmingham Stallions because they'll have success this season. And when DTR goes back to the NFL, what are you gonna do then? All right, moving on to the game. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, Tom. At the beginning of the year, I was like a Kevin Schur hater. I got to be honest. I think it should be similar to the Aviators. I think both of them are the same, but the opposite. I think what they both should do next year is they go to their coordinator as their head coach and then fire the other two. I think that Schur should be the head coach of the Stallions, and then I think that Haley should be the head coach of the Aviators and give them both 1 year. Yeah. Because, like I said, for both those guys, the reason I don't view Redmond as the same level of, I guess, ineptitude as McCarron and Ginn is the coordinator hires. He viewed, hey, I need to get a guy with a lot of offensive experience, and I'm going to get a defensive coordinator that's coached in this league. Whereas AJ said, hey, I'm going to call my buddy that really never did that much on the offensive coaching staff, and I'm going to get him to coach, and I'm just going to pluck a random DC, and vice versa. Ted Ginn got, hey, I'm going to call my boy up that I played with, even though has like 1 year of high school coaching to his name, and I'm going to bring in Todd Haley. So I think that I would like to see those two guys get a head coaching shot because I do think we've seen enough. Like, I'm going to be honest, even if the Stallions were to win a title, depending on how they do it, I still would say that he shouldn't be the coach next year.
Amen. I agree.
I mean, hey, the Eagles proved you do not have to have a great head coach to win a Super Bowl. Because, I mean, seriously, that guy is not even a top 15 head coach in the NFL.
And just to pile on to Zomp's point, I think Captain Munnerly needs to go as well. He just doesn't have the experience. Traditionally, when you bring in a coordinator or a coach, they've been a position coach somewhere else. Particularly with the head coach, they've been a coordinator somewhere else. If you were to take the head coaching position away from Ted Ginn and put him on a staff, would you have him as your coordinator? No, but why would you have him as your head coach? He just doesn't have the XFL tried it, Napoli. It didn't work. Let's not do that again. All right, moving on. The Dallas Renegades at the Louisville Kings. I don't like saying Louisville. I work too hard to try to pronounce things correctly. Anyway, Renegades at Kings, Sunday, 4 p.m. on Fox. This has all the earmarks of a potential trap game for the Kings. What do you guys think?
I mean, nope. I guess, but this Renegades team, man, they ain't looking that good. If they start Lennon, which they won't, then I would say that it's a trap game. Like the Kings understand because I think most of us would probably agree the odds are higher that the Kings win out than Birmingham wins out, and so they need to understand that hey, we got to win out because if you lose a single game, you now really have to rely on Birmingham because if Louisville loses, I believe that means that they need Birmingham to straight up lose out, which, I mean, it could happen, but I doubt it, especially because of when this game plays. Because when this game plays, I believe this could be a Louisville might get eliminated from the playoffs. Somebody could correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe if Birmingham wins this weekend, it means that Louisville is in a must-win scenario, and if they lose this game, they're eliminated from the playoffs. With that being said, I believe Dallas is also in a must-win scenario because I think their only path to the playoffs is a win out. So this is potentially going to be a playoff game in a way, right? Where if Birmingham wins, this is straight up whoever wins survives and whoever loses is eliminated. Either way, I just don't see Louisville losing this game. I don't think they're going to blow them out like they did a few weeks ago, but I do think that they're still going to get a decent win.
I think the defense is just too strong in Louisville. For me, I think their defense carries them. So, but they have a good offense too. They've got good weapons. I mean, their running backs are coming around, and they have great receivers. So, and they're I guess their O-line is finally starting to gel too. So, kind of cool to see the Kings turning it on. I mean, like I said, they've just been improving all year. I see them continuing to improve and be able to beat Dallas.
And to piggyback off of what you both said with Royce, yeah, I feel like that defense definitely can as fully gelled, and I think they're going to be the most dynamic force to beat if they do get in the playoffs. I feel like they're going to be too hard to stop, and I feel like the way the Renegades have been playing lately, I'm not going to say their offense can't make it, but they definitely feel like they're digging themselves into holes, and I feel like the Kings are at the point where they're taking advantage. They're like a dog with a bone. Anything they see, they're going to take. And to see what Zam said, I feel like this is complete scoreboard watching now, because you have the Friday game. If defenders lose, that makes the Stallions game worth even more. If the Stallions lose, the Kings, they're probably grabbing their napkins or forks and knives, and they're ready to feast on the Renegades. So this is a very interesting weekend, because it's not like in the NFL or even Major League Baseball, where when it comes to the end of the season with the teams, everyone's playing the same time and stuff like this. No, this is spread out, where every game is its own separate time slot. So there's massively going to be scoreboard watching between all the teams in the hunt. And I think this will determine how every team plays this week.
Yeah, big game with a lot of potential impact, not just for these teams, but the other teams involved in the league. And that is so great to be this far into the season and have everybody alive. But I think the Renegades have a chance. I'm waiting for Royce to go 5. But no, they're due. They're due for a bounce back game. Maybe it's just the optimist in me. Maybe it's just the Renegades fan in me. But I think little bit of cheese on that trap game for the Kings. All right, moving on to Battlehawks at Gamblers. Huge game? Not huge game? What do you guys think?
Well, I think last week proved it's kind of a huge game, because Gamblers showed us that they can win when none of us thought they could. So I think it's a big game. Potentially keeps them in the playoffs. Potentially gets the Battlehawks on the cusp. So or clinches for the Battlehawks, right? So it's crazy that it could go either way. I think the Battlehawks should be able to take it. But then again, I thought the same thing last week. So what do I know? By the way, great to see Callie in the chat. Very cool.
Oh, yeah. Shout out to Callie. Go ahead, Rick.
I'll throw this out there, and going off of what I've been saying with the way games are playing, this might be another game where if the Battlehawks are up front and in a spot, and the teams that they need to lose ahead of them, they might rest going into the third quarter, and that might give Houston the advantage to win. So this is hard to pick. To me, I want to say Battlehawks, but now thinking out loud, it makes me question all my picks because of the way the schedule is looking and how everything's going. So I feel like the Battlehawks have the tools to rebound way better. I feel like Perez and Thala have that connection where I feel like, granted, the Gamblers kind of saw what the Battlehawks have last week, but they didn't see the Sal Perez connection. And I feel like that could be the key of this game. They both have faith in each other. You don't need to know the playbook if you've played so long and you're on the same team. Go out, cut to the right, I'll throw it. So I definitely feel like we could do. And yeah, I feel like Canelo might get on the field quickly. I mean, I feel like it's not like he's been sitting on the bench or, I believe, and Royce, you're way better at this. I believe he was in the CFL.
No, he was on the Browns last year. So
okay.
Cleveland, he even played some for them. So he's I think that connection he has, like you said, I think he could hop right in there and play I hope he does. Frankly,
Yeah.
I really hope he does.
Well, it's like a pickup game with your friends. I mean, you guys might not have played together in a couple of years, but you when you have that connection, you could tell your buddy, "Go out, I'll throw you the ball." That's what it's going to be. And if it gets to the point where they need they're trailing or something, I feel like this is his security blanket, and I feel like this will help him erase that pick six right from his mind right off the bat.
Yeah. They were not only the best receiving tight end tandem last year, I think they were the best receiving duo, like passer receiving duo, period. And I think they'll get right back to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it'll be interesting and I'm sure Perez will help Canelo get on board real quick because they, like you guys were talking about, they know each other. They already have the hand signals down. He's going to be able to tell them this is part of the offense that was the same. This is what's different. This is what we're doing. It's going to be interesting to see how quickly he catches on, though. Again, we're talking about the dreaded rust. It's going to take a minute for him to catch on. Maybe that's not enough for the Battlehawks to take the Gamblers this week, guys.
I also think that they had a chance last week to win that had they started out strong, and I think they gave the Gamblers no credit at all and kind of fell into that trap game. And I don't think they'll do that again. They obviously know, okay, these guys are better than we gave them credit for. We're going to show up and play from the gun this time.
Yeah, definitely. And that St. Louis defense with Pitta and Jordan Williams, you know, they're going to be upset and they're going to want to take it to Houston. But if you're in the Houston area, I do recommend making it to the game because they are giving out a Jim Kelly USFL Houston Gamblers bobblehead. And I'm sure there will be plenty left after the first half.
Yeah.
Hey, seeing Chris Berman in the booth talk about that, I love that part.
Yeah.
They're giving away 5,000, so we'll see if they're able to give them all out during the game.
Yeah, you know what? Kellywood makes a great point about Marvin Sanders on the Renegades. I don't know if you can put that up there, that his comment, but that's a great point about the Marvin Sanders being able to know that Perez and I guess know his tendencies, because we'll see. I mean, I think, will he do that again? Will he fall into those same traps? Will Perez fall for that again? I don't know. So anyway, I thought that was talent. Good comment.
Yeah, and it's always interesting the little behind the scenes motivations and tactics that are going on. And I love when we get to talk about that stuff because it's an added factor in what's going on in the game. But let's move on to power rankings, guys. I have not seen this yet. I am super excited to see this because with all the movement and transactions and injuries and all the things that have gone on heading into the home stretch of the UFL season, let's see it. This was week 8. Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, so those are week 8, and I always like to do the comparison so you can kind of see, and I try keeping the colors the same so you could, if it makes it easier on everyone's eyes, you could see, follow, pick a color and follow it. And some huge movements, some huge drops.
Yeah.
There it is, week 9, Orlando. Not surprising anybody at the number 1 spot. St. Louis number 1. The Kings moving up to number 3. DC at 4. And of course, we always pay attention to the 4, 5, and 6 spot. DC, Birmingham, and the Gamblers moving up to that number 6 spot. So that means the Aviators move down and the Renegades remain where they're at. Unfortunately, at number 8. I think that's a little bit low for them. Guys, initial thoughts on these power rankings while I digest this.
Yeah,
I love it. This is exactly what mine was.
I'll throw this out there. I feel like, honestly, I had DC lower. I feel like the way they played in that game, and I actually had the Stallions over Birmingham, or I had Birmingham over DC. I feel like they're trending in a better direction, especially DC has lost 2 in a row. They just lost their franchise quarterback. I'm not saying it's doom and gloom, but the way the Stallions are 3-1 under DTR, to me, that's kind of definitely moving up different directions.
Yeah.
And we got a comment here from Matt Bryce 99. on our YouTube. He says Storm On. And Matt Rice, name probably not familiar, but if you're watching UFL games and you're watching the Orlando Storm games, he is the squid guy, the squid hat guy. And pay attention, you might see a little bit more from him coming up in the future. But I personally think Louisville's a bit too high. I think they haven't officially taken the title from DC and moved up ahead of them until we have at least one game under Sanders' belt. Birmingham, I think, is a little bit low. I think they might sneak into that 4 spot. I'm okay with the Gamblers where they're at for this week. Other than that, any surprises, guys? Anything else that kind of, or let's talk about the 4, 5, 6 spot. Do you think that's going to stay the same?
It all depends on if DC can win. I don't know if they don't take one of those 2 games from Orlando, they're in real trouble. So I honestly think it depends on whether they play Bean or not. If you ask me, I believe they should play Bean, and I think they could get that win. If not, then I don't know. And it's terrible because I picked them to go all the way and win the whole thing at the beginning of the year. No, it's not looking like it. So
I will say this. So I actually ran some stats on this week compared to a couple weeks ago with week 7, and I want to share it with everyone real quick. So if you take a look at week 7, you had your Kings at 7th, and we had the Storm at 5. And now we go to week 9.
Wow.
The Storm is 1, and the Kings are 3.
Yeah.
Completely crazy. I mean, Orlando went from the 5 to 3 to the 1, and the Kings went from 7-4 to 3. And to me, I feel like the Kings that jump up. I've been high on the Kings. I said last week it's like Jekyll and Hyde for me. When I want to pick them, they don't win for me, and vice versa. But I've always been. I'm a huge Sharper fan. I'm a huge fan of that defense. And about time, and now that the offense is clicking with that defense, I feel like this is the most dangerous team out there, and I feel like they could definitely shock some people. Shout out to the 502 people.
And again, I'm always going to keep my eye on that 4, 5, 6 spot to see who sneaks in to the playoffs. And looking at DC, Birmingham, and Houston in this case, guys, out of those 3 teams, which one do you think sneaks in, and why is it probably going to be Birmingham?
Yeah, I think it'll be Birmingham because they're rolling, and DTR is just being a good team leader. And right now, I don't think the other teams have enough in their tank. I mean, DC could if Shannon Harris can get them to rally. It all depends on that QB spot, though. So I think Birmingham has the talent, though. They've got a great talented team, and they have a QB to boot. DC's got a talented team. They don't have a QB, and gamblers just aren't consistent. Period. So I'd put them definitely the least likely to make it through.
Yeah, Royce, you stole my point. I was going to say it all comes down to quarterback play, and you have one team that has their quarterback star player go down. You have another team who's traded for a quarterback who's now 3-1, and they're rising quickly. And then you have another quarterback. I mean, the Gamblers literally, no pun intended, they shuffle the deck every single week. So you don't know which team you're getting. So it kind of makes it a little difficult to fully pick people. I think it comes down to the schedule, and I will say I feel like Houston got lucky, and I feel like St. Louis beat themselves. So I feel like out of those teams, you're going to have the Stallions, and it'll be interesting because who would have said a couple weeks ago that you would have the Kings, Stallions, and the Storm would be your 1 seed? It's just, I love how unpredictable everything is.
Yeah, and I'm going to answer one of the questions that Matt asked in the comments. He said, "Did Orlando mess up by trading away DTR?" He didn't say mess, but the answer to me is no, because Plummer has showed that he can run that team, but it sure did help the Stallions. So that, I mean, if they ever meet down the road, that could bite them in the butt. But overall, I don't think they did wrong by trading him away because they have a solid starter. Now, if Plummer gets hurt, that could be a bad thing for them. So we'll see.
All right, sorry about that, guys. I got some bad weather my way, and I dropped out. But I'm back. Where are we at, guys?
We're about to
All
actually
right,
jump into picks.
let's jump
I'm
into
trying to.
picks then. I'm excited for this. I'm the one who puts together the picks, but I'm super excited for this because it's going to be a. Let's get week 8 off of that. We already looked at that. We already
Yeah.
did that.
That was a terrible week.
Yeah, I don't like rehashing the picks if going into the next week. Rehash the picks when we do the review. All right, week 9 picks for the alternative football panel. DC at Orlando. Everybody went with Orlando with the exception of DC. And again, we're still waiting for Zom to put his PC back together so we can get a video for his pick. Guys, let's talk about DC Orlando real quick. I went with Orlando, as did Rick and Royce. DeMarcus went with DC after hearing about the news about Jordan Tiamo. He said he was still going to roll with him. He's going to give Sanders a chance. Guys, thoughts real quick on that one?
I kind of thought the same thing at first, but then when I learned that Tiamo was not going to be the QB, I had to switch. So I don't know. I can see it though, especially if honestly the Storm have been a above par team, but they haven't been great ever. You know what I mean? So I can see them being upset even by a team that just catches a spark. So I don't know. I still think overall the Storm has the talent and the coaching to get the win without, with Sanders at QB and maybe even with Bean at QB, whoever they go with. We'll see.
I think that's what makes it a little more difficult. Like, you don't fully know who's going to be named a starter. And we're all guessing Sanders off of how he got put in once Diamo went down. If this is Bean, I'm way more confident in him. I feel like he definitely could be the difference maker. But I'm just going off of how they looked after he went down, and it definitely shows not only his ability on the field, it's also his leadership, and I feel like they just had a hard time rebounding from that. So we will see, and I feel like with this being Orlando's last home game, they know. I feel like Orlando's playing for more, even though they're in first place, because they know if we win, we can rest next week. This is a home game. Like, this definitely could help us even get, if you get a home game now, you can get more people in the stands for next week. So, or when they host a playoff game. So I feel like Orlando, I hate to say is the safest pick here, but I feel like they definitely feel like it might be the team.
Yeah.
All right, guys, and I am live tweeting that as we're talking about it. If you guys are watching, which of the panelists do you think has gotten it right so far? Which do you agree with? But we're going to move on to Birmingham, Columbus. I went ahead and picked Columbus. I think they've got an opportunity. Maybe it's just the home and home series. Maybe it's just I think that maybe Stallions are a little bit overconfident. Maybe DTR's drink a little bit too much Kool-Aid. But DeMarcus and I went with the Aviators over the Stallions. You guys want to jump in on that?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Rick.
I'll just go off of what I was saying before. I mean, now with all the games lining up, and it's one after another, this kind of really plays into it. Where if DC loses, it gives the Stallions game even more weight for both teams because they're both kind of in the hunt. So to me, I think DTR is that guy for that team. I feel like he can lead them, and he's had that touch, and I think. And I'm probably wrong, but if I'm happy to be right here, if DC loses, this game means so much to the Stallions, where the Stallions almost can't lose because they know if we win, we now almost jump DC with 1 week left. We're in.
Yeah. Yep.
And this is one of those rare games where we actually split as a panel. I like having odd numbers because then we get tiebreakers in there. But right now, we're waiting for somebody to put his PC together throw a video together and decide who he wants to win between Columbus and Birmingham. We're not going to ask him to do it right now. He is fervently working away, trying to get caught up with that. But we are waiting because he is our tiebreaker for that game. But we're going to move on. Dallas and Louisville. I picked the Renegades. Shocker. I think they're going to win one game before the end of the season. I don't think they're going to go winless after that start. Royce, I already know. You know what? Maybe we'll be the one. Everybody else went with the Kings. Guys, you want to talk about this pick?
Man, you got too much. You really think they're repeating last year, don't you? Where they were, 3-1, blew 4 games in a row, and then won 2 games that didn't matter.
It is the
Speaking
UFL.
of blowing, congratulations to the Cavs on blowing that 22-point lead tonight.
Oh, did they? Oh, man.
Yes, they blew the lead and lost in OT.
Woo. Crazy.
After last night, we're not going to talk about the NBA, but maybe we'll talk about it towards the end. But after last night's double, wearing my lucky Spurs hat, go Spurs go. All right, but we're going to go back to the UFL, and we're going to talk about the last game of the week, St. Louis at Houston. And again, in a shocker, I am going to take the Gamblers, even though nothing should indicate that the Gamblers should beat St. Louis. I'm going to take them on Jim Kelly bobblehead USFL Gambler night. Call me crazy, but I think maybe even Deckers, I've been listening to Royce here. Maybe Deckers has a chance to do something. Guys, what are your thoughts on St. Louis and Houston?
I mean, I honestly, I don't think it's that crazy to pick Houston. It's one of those things where, I know Matt talks about it a lot. They got a sneaky good defense, and as I've said, they're a team that makes you play worse. I don't know how they do it, but they make you just play poorly. And that's what happened against St. Louis. They played poorly down the stretch in that last drive. They made a couple mistakes, the pick 6 early. I'm not, super shocked if they were to pull it off. I don't think I'm going to pick them, but I really wouldn't be too shocked if they were to somehow pull off this win. I will say, if they do win the game, I really do wonder what Ricky's going to do, because we all hope he sticks with Perez, but if you're Ricky and you used your whole argument about we were winning with Frost, dare I say we might have to witness more Harrison Frost on our TV screens if they lose this game?
No, man. No. Don't do it.
I hope not, but dude, with Ricky, oh no.
I think that St. Louis has the defense of ability to figure out Deckers. They played him last week. They're going to be able to shut him down this week. And they may even see Plumlee come in, because I think they're going to solve that Deckers flash in the pan. That's my belief.
And coming in for more than 3 plays?
Yeah. Yeah, he didn't really get a good fair shake out there. Plumlee didn't. So I think they might, if they start getting down, they'll probably put Plumlee in. I don't know. It's tough because the way Decker started that game, he looked solid. But then, like Kelly would point it out in the comments, there are times when he just throws bad passes. So,
Rick, did you want to interject here?
Yeah, I feel like St. Louis beat themselves last week, but to me, this also comes down to what happened before the other 3 games that put them in the spot. So maybe you do see Frost if Orlando has won and they know they can't lock up home field or what. I think this is going to come down to how things are, and if Perez and Sal are clicking, I feel like they get the win. But I wouldn't be shocked if Houston takes the upset if everything in for them. If Louisville loses, if the Stallions lose, this is a huge game for the Gamblers, and I think it really comes down to how everything works. I'm going to be paying attention to Zom and how his tiebreakers and everything are, and what happens to get teams in the playoff, because, folks, this is going to be the video you need to know, because every game will play into each other. This is a dominoes race, and it starts Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you look at my picks, it leaves everybody still open for the playoffs. That's why I said I call it a disruptor or a chaos picks. I'm going to continue to pick against the Stallions for this week and next week. Zom might have this information. I don't want to put you on the spot, Zom. How many teams have swept the back-to-backs of the other teams? I think that's only happened once this year.
Orlando.
Was it with?
Yeah, just Orlando.
Was it just Orlando?
I believe so. Orlando swept the Kings. I do not. Well, no. The Kings. The Kings also did it to DC. They just did it to DC.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Good point.
There it is. So I'm going to go way against the grain and pick the Gamblers for no reason other than I just don't want St. Louis to win. I want Houston to have a good win. And I hope Mr. Rapoli heads down to Houston to collect a bobblehead because I know the fans in Houston definitely want to see him there. There's been talks, and this is just kind of water cooler talk, that the Roughneck fans are going to have their own throwback at a Gamblers game and wear some Roughneck gear to that game. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
You know, honestly, with Rapoli being willing to spend money to get like actual alt jerseys for the Storm, like I mean, I know Royce and I both were looking forward to that Memphis Showboats throwback night that never happened.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be stunned if they do keep the Gamblers next year, they do actually do like a Roughnecks throwback. I honestly wouldn't be too shocked.
That'd be pretty cool.
Or at least a true Gamblers throwback. Could you imagine if like he hid this news from everybody and the Gamblers come out in the true black unis? Oh my God.
With the Jim Kelly helmet? Whew.
Yes, the OG jerseys, dude, that would be cinema.
Yeah. Go ahead, Rick. What were you going to say?
Hey, my question is, I noticed that Mike and DC kind of won different picks. So either Mike actually takes over DC for the total or he's behind me. So I'm just saying, it's a very interesting week.
Don't jinx me.
Well, I was going to say it if he didn't. So
I decided to kind of like go against it. You know, I'm playing with house money. Why not? You know, take some flyers. Plus, I don't. As a person who puts these together, I dislike seeing when we all agree all the time. And I know great minds think alike, but let's have some debate. Let's dig a little bit deeper here, guys. But I dislike seeing the red X across every single one. So I thought I'd mix it up a little bit.
Hey, Royce has a chance to tie everyone too. I mean, we're talking playoff races. We got a 3-team race right here. Just saying.
Playoff. Yeah, it's a great way to end the season with this week and next week coming up before we actually go into the playoffs. And with the picks that I made, extended a little bit more, but I am ready to move on, guys.
all right.
I was supposed to. I don't know if it's working, but so I actually did put something together for everyone to see. It's called see if it actually loads. So it basically comes down to basically who's in and who's out. So let's see if I actually could get this to work.
The fun of doing a live podcast. No pre-recorded here. If we make a mistake, it's live and we own it.
So it's called Locked In the Hunt, and Looking In. So right now we have one team locked in. We got 4 in the hunt, and we got 3 looking in. So this is going to be a very interesting week. Like I said, the way the games are playing, if DC loses, that makes the Stallions game worth even more. The Stallions lose, it makes the Kings game worth even more. And if all 3 of those teams, the Gamblers are saying, hey, let's run it back against St. Louis. This is a very interesting weekend. The UFL gives the ability for teams to scoreboard watch. And hey, if you're on a plane headed back to HQ, why not? This is the opportunity, and I think this is going to make the next 2 weeks extremely interesting because I feel like you're going to have teams watching and trying to pick up stuff, but also see who they might be playing, and you're going to have teams cheering on other teams. This is going to be crazy.
So was losing the conferences the best thing they ever did?
I think
go ahead, Royce.
I was saying, was losing conferences the best thing they ever did for competition? I think so. I love that it makes everything
keeping
wide open.
I've been keeping track on that on the side, and right now the XFL division would have 3 teams that are going to be 500 or better as of right now, and the UFL side would have 2 teams that are like 4 and 6, maybe 4 to 6 wins. So it's interesting. Clearly, the XFL division would have been better, but if you look at the looking in picks, I picked the Gamblers, I picked the Renegades, and I picked the Aviators because I want those. I want to prolong it. I want this to go a little bit longer, and I feel like if you're a UFL fan, you should be watching every game. There's only 4. We watch more of that in the NFL on a daily basis. You can watch 3 or 4 games in one sitting with the UFL on one day, so you should be able to catch all 4 of these games, guys. All righty. If we're ready to move on.
Yeah, that's it. We're done.
If that's the end of it, I do want to wrap up some things. Royce is working on a project that I've kind of coerced him into working on for our super fans. I didn't want to show any sample cards yet, but we are still looking for super fans from different UFL teams across the entire league. So we do have some, but we want a little bit more. Royce, were there specific teams that we were missing or looking for super fans for?
Yeah, I'd love some Aviator super fans. We're missing a Kings super fan, and I think we are missing. There's one other team. Oh man, I'm blanking out right now. But by the way, I want to ask if Matt is still in the comments for Orlando. I've got a picture of you with 2 other guys, and I'm so far temporarily calling it Squid Squad. Are you okay with that? Let me know in the comments. Otherwise, what do you officially go by as your UFL superfan name? I'd like to know that. So yeah, if you have UFL superfans out there that you're aware of that I haven't found yet, I've got the Battlehawks covered. I've got most teams covered, but I don't have anybody from Columbus or Louisville, and I think that might be it. Trying to think of other teams. I think I got them all though, right?
Sounds like it. So guys, pay attention to our social medias. We'll be putting out a post looking for super fans. And as you know, Royce creates these digital cards, which I love, and he'll be putting their image and likeness onto one of those digital cards. They won't be physical cards unless you print them out, but that's a different story. We'll talk about that much, much later. I'm trying to think if we have got anything else, guys. Anybody else want to vamp for a second while I think?
The Spurs, Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah, we can talk about the Spurs. Let's see, we got a couple minutes to kill before we end the show. I try not to get ahead of myself when it comes to rooting for my teams, but I love what this Spurs team is. They're the epitome of team. They are the rebirth of this. Actually, not even rebirth. It's a continuation of what they've always done with this front office and this organization. And I love that they were able to draft and trade smartly and correctly. And in the NBA, that's a difficult thing to do. Guys, let's go back into the UFL for just 1 second. Anybody else want to wrap it up before we head out?
No.
No, I think we did a good job being pretty thorough, and I think it's going to be another fun week, man. Just exciting stuff. This is such a fun league to follow. I guess that's my whole thing is I finally got my nephew to watch a game last week. He was like, boy, why don't more people know about this? I was like, exactly. It's so fun. So, yeah, I wish more people would tune in. It's great.
Definitely. And with all the concerns about attendance, I'm looking at the TV numbers, and you hear people griping about it. It's a TV league. Yes, because that's where the money is. It's easier for people to stay home in the AC as opposed to going out and, spending the money as things get a little bit tougher right now. But you can always turn on the TV. You don't need 9 different streaming apps to watch it finally. You can get it all on one, possibly, app. I have YouTube TV, and I use that, and I'm able to watch all the games. I don't have to download anything else. I don't have to pay for any other subscriptions. I can download that and watch it. That being said, this has been one of the most exciting UFL seasons in terms of coming down to the last minute. And this is our first season as the alternative football panel. But as the season winds down, we are still looking for panelists potentially. Ideally, I'd like one panelist for each UFL team to kind of operate as a home market for them to give us more insight that we might miss as a nationwide audience looking, from the outside looking in, give us some in depth. So pay attention, guys. If you're interested, let me know. Send me a DM, and we could possibly set something up. So keep that in mind. Also, as we head towards the end of the season, we're debating about what we're going to do with this podcast. We have the potential as the alternative football panel to cover more than just the UFL. Maybe what's going on in Europe, the indoor leagues and the arena leagues here, CFL up north. So we can continue going on. So I would love to hear you guys' feedback on this. Also DM me or any one of the guys you see on their social medias. Be sure to follow us all. Give us a like and a follow. Alternative Football Panel. Guys, I am XFL Mike G. If anybody else wants to add anything.
Hey, if anyone's in New York, I'll see you at Double or Nothing. I'm going to AEW this weekend, so.
All right on. Be sure to post about that. And guys, if you're wrestling fans, follow Rick. This guy, you've got another podcast where you do strictly wrestling, don't you?
Yep. And it's coming back, so we're dropping some stuff this week, maybe this weekend or within a couple of weeks. So
definitely, and I know there's a lot of crossover between wrestling fans and football fans. It's a physical sport that all goes together. So if you're a wrestling fan, give Rick 8-Bit a follow. Guys, I am ready to send it home. Rick, send us home.
Yeah, thanks everyone. We will see you next week, same channel, same time, 10 o'clock, and it's definitely going to be an interesting weekend of football. So we look forward to talking with you guys next week.
Bye, everybody.
Go Spurs, go.